Right, so, yeah, my name is Matt, and I currently live in California. Um, the reason what ended up bringing me to um, the coding world is my friend and I wanted to create a platform where gamers can come and basically create a community around video games, as that is both my passion and his passion. And so I picked up a just a little book because I didn't want to do a WordPress or a Squarespace deal. I actually wanted to build my own website. And as I was diving into the book and diving into YouTube and stuff, some of my close family members and friends had recommended to me Bethel Tech. And 8 months later, here I am, helping present my final, and yeah, I'm really excited about this.
All right, awesome. I think I'm up. My name is Paul Rase. I am living right now in Omaha, Nebraska. Actually born and raised here. I've been away and come back, like many of us do in certain places. So in Omaha, Andrew, you said kind of go from amateur to professional. I think when I started, I wasn't even in the amateur world. I knew zero. I didn't know anything. I couldn't have told you what HTML was or CSS or anything. And development wasn't really even on my radar. And it was a year ago, February of 18, my wife and I were watching the prophetic conference that Bethel does each year. We were watching it online live, and Chris Valentin and Ryan Collins got up and gave kind of their elevator pitch, I guess, for Bethel Tech, what it was and kind of their vision for it. And I think if I'd ever thought of development before, I'd always assumed you needed a college degree. And I finished my college degree a long time ago, wasn't interested in going to get another one. So I just probably was never really on my radar. But when they talked about a boot camp, I'd never even heard the concept of a coding boot camp. And I think for me, I'm sure a lot of people come into Woz U, and the Woz U name is what draws them. For me, it was Bethel. Like, the Bethel's hooked up with this. All right, this is something legit. So I can get into this. And so that kind of got me thinking about it. And then I quickly got online and started reading about developer, what makes a good developer, and like all of the stuff I read, it was like I was reading my own personality. And I was like, wow, this sounds perfect. And so that was kind of the start for me.
That's awesome. My name is Cameron LaVallie. I am I just moved to Fort Worth, Texas. And what grabbed me with this school was actually my wife. She was watching I think like a Facebook video from Bethel that they had shared about Bethel School of Technology. And she'd known that I'd always had interest in doing it, but kind of like Paul, I'd already gone to school. I didn't really want to go back, get a 4-year computer science degree and do that all over again. And so when she shared this video with me, it just immediately grabbed me. We'd spent like 3 or 4 years in Reading at Bethel, so familiar with Bethel. And the fact that they were putting this on was awesome. And partnering with you guys at Woz U. And so, yeah, it immediately grabbed me, and I was just pretty much like all in from that point. As soon as I watched that video, I knew I was going to be trying to, get accepted to this and go through the program. And definitely a God thing, because it's something I've always wanted to do. I wanted to challenge myself with, and this Bethel School of Technology and Woz U, you guys, gave me that opportunity. So thank you for that. It's been a pleasurable experience, a hard experience, probably one of the hardest things I've ever done. And yeah, just looking forward to the future for sure. So.
Hi, I'm Morgan Muse. I live in Dallas, Texas currently. I wasn't, like many people, I wasn't a huge fan of technology, even though I currently just work in an IT help desk. I was kind of like, well, I mean, it's here, but I don't want it to control my life. I've kind of always had a heart for helping victims of sex trafficking. I went to school, got my bachelor's in sociology with a minor in criminology, and thought, okay, well, I'm going to work with like police departments. Never in my mind thought that there would be opportunities to do it via online, even though that's where a lot of transactions go down. And so with this kind of opened up a whole new door for me to kind of pursue helping others and just different technologies like Thorn or A21 campaign is a really good one. Just using like advocating technology as a way to assist people in this environment. So that's kind of my dream and hope to apply this. Like many of us, this is a great start, and I know we have a lot to learn, but I'm excited. This has given me a love for technology now, so it's kind of changed my view, and really excited for what the future holds. And with that, I would love to talk about our project now. Cam is going to share his screen. Awesome. So yeah, this is Martyria. This site was created by believers for believers, but honestly for anyone. One of our beliefs in this is actually a Bible verse. It's 1 Thessalonians 5:11. It says, Christ died for us so that whether we are awake or asleep, we may live together in him. Therefore, encourage one another and build up each other, just in fact, as you are doing. That is kind of our heart and our hope for this application. While it has many different features, one of the main things we wanted to do is create positivity. Unlike other social sites, this brings out more positive vibes for a user, a reader, and just in this time that we began, we kind of were thinking like, all right, well, we're almost finished, but we're not quite finished. And I could really, like, I see the light at the end of the tunnel, but I just need some hope to hang on to. And so Matt had actually opened up one of our meetings with, hey, can I just hear some good testimonies? And it kind of changed our point of view of, okay, well, this is changing the atmosphere. And that's kind of what we want to do, not just with this application, but in any job application that we go into. We want to change that atmosphere to be more positive, to bring more light, to bring new ideas, and just, like I said, and join together and encourage one another. And that's for believer, non-believer, whoever you may be. It just creates a different work environment to be encouraging versus negative. So that's how we came about it. And like I said, that's one of the reasons why we wanted to do this and just build each other up. Cam, I think you're on mute.
There we go. So for the front end technologies, what we used for, as far as like the platform goes for creating the site, was create React app, which, as you know, that gets things going pretty quick. You don't have to manually install all your dependencies and all of that. It kind of does it for you. And you know, for our first time building an application like this, we decided that would probably be the best fit for us. As far as, you know, the layout of this goes, we actually used two, it's not all in one location, if that makes sense. We actually have a front end that is separate from our back end, which is something we never did before in school. That was something that we knew was probably going to be a challenge for us, and it was. And I will just go ahead and basically take you through our site and show you what it does. This is the landing page upon coming to the website. Just kind of welcoming the user. We have a login button here, sign up button. And we also have a few testimonies down here that are in a carousel, just kind of giving you a glimpse of maybe some of the things that you will find on the site. So let's just go to sign up here and sign up a new user. Let's do Barney 5. All right, and that sign up page and this login page was actually probably the hardest part about this entire thing, getting the authentication going right, and then you know, matching our endpoints, you know, from front end to back end, making sure we were endpoints. And we probably spent more time on this than we did actually building the rest of the site out. So the fact that we got it is a miracle. And super proud of all these guys. They spent some late nights, you know, trying to resolve these issues and get things going. So, let's see. All right, so coming into the site, logging in after you're authenticated, it's basically routing you to the About page. We just kind of want the user to kind of know what Marturia is about, and you know, give a little bit of a message of encouragement. But the basic idea of this is centered around the testimonies. But just to show you the rest of this here, we have Meet the Team page, Meet the Developers. You can go check the developers out at their LinkedIn page, which is really cool. We have the About page here, and also the home page for a authenticated user on the other side. The home page is actually different. Instead of having the sign up, the login, that changes to, you know, check out the testimonies. Go there, check out the testimonies here. So the testimony page is basically just like a simple form where you as a user get to, you know, enter your name, the title of what you're going to be sharing, and then the body of text, the actual testimony. And as you go throughout here, you can see that the infinite scroll feed is working. The site is responsive as well as the nav bar. A user, let's see, Bonnie. Just did this for quick. And there we are. So just to demonstrate the logout function, logout is bringing you back to the login page rather than the landing page. Which is here. And I'm going to go ahead and log in with my user just to demonstrate like editing and deleting a post function. And if you guys have anything you want to add, feel free to jump in. All right. Okay, so to edit the user here, you just click on this pin or edit the post, user post, and this is grabbing the post into the edit form, all the words from the post into the edit form, so you can kind of see what you have posted in your original post, and now we will change it. All right, and as you can see, everything is updated and posted, and I can also delete my post. So this is kind of the layout of our site. I know I did that pretty quick. Hopefully you guys were keeping up with me. And I'll just hand it off to whoever is next here.
We'll probably talk about this a little bit more towards the ending where we had the issues and stuff. But one of the things we wanted to have originally the user to edit and delete their own posts. And that was kind of a challenge because we spent so much time on the login bit. But as the admin user can edit and delete other users' posts, but the user themselves cannot edit or delete their post. So once the user posts, it's kind of set in stone. So I just wanted to kind of tag that bit on. And then, yeah, so going back to the login page. So one thing that Cam and I were doing, we didn't quite understood the general concept of how to create the React kind of front end application, but we didn't know really how to kind of expand that into a full-scale application. So we ended up watching a couple tutorials that we found on Udemy, and that proved to be both really good, and that brought up a lot of issues that we had. We were using kind of two different front-end tutorials, and the back-end team, Morgan and Paul, were using a tutorial to set up the back-end. We weren't really, like Cam said, this was our first time building a application where the front end and the back end are separate. They're not in the same. They're not in the same file. And with the login, specifically, some of our request points were different than the back-end endpoints, and it took us a second to figure out what the actual issue was. So Cam, I don't know if you want to open up the code for the front end, and we can talk a little bit about that, and then hand it over to the back end team.
Yep, absolutely. So I think the biggest issue, like we were saying, was this endpoint here was just wrong. So basically, so much has actually changed from the original, like what we originally had in here. So it's kind of hard for me to reference, like to go back to tell you what we originally had in there. But basically, we just had a few things out of place. I think we were calling ID, in the wrong place. But basically, the general idea of the user sign up and log in, it was we just had this written out wrong, basically. So what ended up happening was, through a lot of sessions, a lot of figuring this out, and even some mentor help. So big shout out to Frank for helping us kind of understand and see what we were doing wrong, what we were doing right, and encouraging us to keep going through this process. We got everything figured out, but basically we were calling ID in the login here in the wrong place in the app.js here. So we actually had ID in here when this just needed to be decoded. And that was it was a super simple fix. We also cleaned this up quite a bit as well. But basically, the idea of this, for instance, for the sign up user, is that it's basically like taking in the user data and dispatching it with the actions and the actions type and the payload to the reducer to manipulate the state and to send back, to the UI that this user exists, and now we can log in. So, but one of the biggest things was, just not really understanding why we were calling what was. So
Yeah.
I think after hours of reading and trying to understand, instead of just putting stuff in, we're like, okay, this is there's only a few ways to do this. Like, we got to do it the right way. We figured it out. So,
and I do want to add on what Cam was. Yeah. So we just in the login process, we really understood the value of reading the console errors when you're in the website, and really breaking that down. And there's a couple great Chrome extensions, Redux extension and React extension, to kind of help explore the issue a little bit more. And I remember there was 2 issues that we were having specifically. On this page, you can see line 45. It says local storage dot set item JSON web token res.data. On the front end, this is an example of the front and back weren't lining up. On the front end, when we were following the tutorial on that line 45, we originally had res response.data JSON or JWT, or no, it was just token. And
it was token.
We were getting an error, but we didn't understand why we were getting an error. Later, we found out that we were trying to call the token object in the object data, or in the data object, but in the back end, the token wasn't an object. The token was just in data. And so it's just a really simple fix. We just got rid of the token, and it cleared up some errors. And then on the, if you want to go to the app.js tab real quick, there was one other thing that we were having an issue with, where the user could log in, and originally we had a dashboard component where the user could fill in just kind of like super basic info, like just where they're located, all of that stuff. And when the user would log in, the JWT token would be set, so you can actually see that in the Redux. So it would say that the user or the profile is logged in, and the login would push you to the dashboard. However, when you would leave the dashboard to go other places, it would just kick you out. It would just log you out, and we couldn't understand why. And it was a real simple, I think it was on the store. Yeah. So we had decoded dot JSON web token or
this was here.
Local storage. I think it was local storage, decoded local storage. Anyways, once we removed that, everything worked, and it's just a testament to attention to detail for code. But also, you can lose your mind over the smallest thing. Just rethink about your life and then realize you made a typo, and that's just what was keeping you back. So
yeah, another issue too that we were having here on the login user is that when they would enter in like the wrong login data, we were calling I think we were calling res.errors.data right here, which was throwing us basically breaking the page, breaking the site into, and then just giving us a list of errors that were basically saying that's undefined, we can't read this or whatever. And by changing that and entering in the wrong data here, we were able to resolve that and get that printed to the page and sign in a user correctly. So.
And we had the same thing on the post data, so if you didn't enter in all the fields, it would kick you back. Needs to be filled with data. So then so I don't know if Morgan and Paul, you guys want to talk about the backend a little bit and what that was like.
Yeah, I think I'm up. Cam, if you want to put up the one backend slide we got there. While he's doing that, I'll just say, we kind of already mentioned it. It was a big deal for us to develop front and back end separately, because we hadn't done that at all in our lessons. And when we go back, or I went back and was reading through lessons, the info's there, but as you know, I mean, you're going through the boot camp and it's at a pretty rapid pace. And so sometimes it's just survival mode and there's a lot that's missed. And so it was, when Adib said to us, he's like, all right, I'd really like to see you guys develop front and back end separately. And he said, just honestly, he's like, it's gonna be hard. He said, but you can do it now when you have me here to help, or you can do it at your job and there may not be anyone there to help. And so we appreciate that. But it was like, at the time, it was like, for us, like, wait a minute, what? And so it really made us understand what we were doing, even things we had done in school, like had to go back and understand, what did we just do? Because there's things that you just kind of, you can get through it and you can make it work, or you're following the example, but you don't understand everything you're doing. And I feel like we came out of this understanding so much better what it is we're really doing, which was awesome. So thank you, Adib, for pushing us to do it this way. But seriously, I mean, we can look back and laugh now, but it was weeks of trying to wrap our heads around, how can it be separate? How can it, like, yeah, we're probably still not 100% there, but maybe 90. So that was a big deal for us. And you know, just building a RESTful API was one that's separated front and back. That was a big deal for us. So we just picked kind of just one piece of the code here from the back to just kind of show a little bit. This is the authorization that really is going to get, you know, as everyone knows, it's just checking to see is the email and the password, are those correct? And if so, it's going to create a token. You can see our dependencies there at the top. You know, we used, this is probably going to sound, for all of you guys who know what you're doing, Andrew and Franklin and Adib and all you guys, you're like, well, yeah, of course. But you don't know the things you don't know until you learn them, and then you realize you didn't know it. Like for me, it was a huge breakthrough to realize what Node.js was. I made it all the way through the lessons without realizing that all that basically does is allow us to program in JavaScript. I'm like, oh, okay, that makes sense. And so we did this in Node. We use Express. You know, obviously, we chose Mongoose as our object data modeling library that we're using, and we have Joy in there, bcrypt, Lodash. Down there below, it's just going to basically throw you an error. Kind of one of the security things we saw is, you know, don't tell the person if it's their email or their password that's wrong. Just send the same message if one of them's wrong. So if, you know, in a real world example, this was Facebook or whatever, and someone's trying to hack it, they don't even know what's missing. It's just saying something's not right. You can see on line 19, you know, assuming everything is right, it's going to generate your token. We've got some validation stuff down there that's kind of requiring certain things of an email and a password. Yeah, that's kind of the real quick run through of just one little piece of the back end. Yeah, I think that's what I got on that page.
Yeah, so kind of like what Paul was saying is that we do have Joy for authenticating bcrypt to better protect the user, and Lodash, which actually hashes the password, so that even if somehow you were trying to hack into, let's say, MongoDB or MLab, where we have it hosted online, you wouldn't be able to see the user's password. It could be 123, or it could be Africa by Toto 12. That's just an example of a password. It could be different options, but a hacker wouldn't be able to differentiate that. One of the things I did kind of want to talk about, Cam, I don't know if you have that picture I sent over.
Let's see.
So this is something, yes, yeah. So this is something that just kind of ran through. This is our architect overview. Kind of mentioned it before, we're using React as our front end. What that does is make a single page application much quicker, much faster, as opposed to Angular is very good, but it's a very bloated application. So for this, we just thought it's quick, it's easy, it's simple, and it's consistently updating. So there's no need to reload the page every time somebody puts a post or makes a change. deleting or updating. And so it's using a RESTful API. Like Paul said, it's talking to the backend where we're using Express / Node.js. And that is authenticating our users, creating tokens, JWT tokens to authenticate. What we did there is then we hosted it on Heroku, that little logo down there. That made it where front end is talking to back end, even though they're completely separate, they're hosted completely separate. But through using environment variables, that was something I found very interesting, that it can make or break your project pretty quick. And in many cases, it broke our project. But once we got it, we got it. And so setting up environment variables, not just locally, also on the environment itself onto Heroku, which then produces our application here, test page there. And so let me see, if you don't mind navigating back to the code,
yeah.
Cam. Awesome. So yes, and I know Paul kind of showed off this auth page. Going over to, I think I have access.
Yeah, you do.
Okay. We also ran tests on the back end just to make sure everything was working correctly. This is something that I know there's a couple people who are still studying, I guess you'd say, still learning if you're running backends. Something Adib told me a long time ago was make sure you're running tests, and it's really good because without these tests, we didn't really be sure if the backend was even working. We would use Postman to kind of test things through that, but just running like node daemon, that would tell us, hey, your string is working here, it's not working on this page. Very interesting to see. So I would just giving that tidbit information for anybody who's still studying. This is kind of giving us a schema for posts that, you know, a certain user comes in, they have a minimum length, a maximum length, and like Cam kind of showed off in the site, they can't just leave it blank. It's going to throw that error so that if anybody just comes in, they're like, I'm just going to make random post, or I'm going to put a ridiculous long post in here so it takes up half the page. They wouldn't be able to do that. So yeah, that's that right there. I'll let someone else take back over.
I think something that I wanted to add too was I know I said that we used the Create React app, but we also used async and await. We used React hooks, Redux, and I think you mentioned this, Matt, but we used the Redux Thunk and Redux dev tools, which probably saved us a lot. Those dev tools were paramount to helping us figure out what was going on and fixing our issues. We used React Bootstrap and Materialize. We used both of them. We used Materialize on the header just because I didn't want to change it. We initially started with Materialize and probably like maybe a weekend, I started realizing I don't really necessarily like everything Materialize is offering. So we, some of it's styled with Materialize, some of it's styled with Bootstrap. Which is probably not normal, but that's what we ended up going with. We used Axios to talk to the backend, and then obviously the JWT JSON web tokens, and deployed it on Heroku and Git deployment. So I was going to say, too, that one of the reasons we chose React as well is because it was probably something that it was going to really challenge us. I felt like it was more challenging for me in school to go over the React than the Angular. And so I really personally wanted to choose React for the challenge to learn it better and to have an opportunity to grow in it. And some of the things that I've, found out about, up until now that I really like about React is the usage, the UI components, because it really made, for Matt and I, it really made it easier to work on separate things at the same time and not break code or not mess anything up when we were trying to push to GitHub. So that was something that I really enjoyed with working with React. Is just the self-contained building blocks of code. And also just kind of, makes it easier as far as like from standpoint of file structure and all of that. For me, it made it a lot easier and made more sense. And also the usage of components and reusing components as well. So I just wanted to throw that in there.
Yeah, so with React, I personally did not want to use React. I wanted to use Angular because I understood Angular, and I felt like I barely got through the React module in school, because React was really hard to understand, and Redux was really hard to understand, and by no means am I a master at it now. However, thinking, I don't know, I think I was talking to Franklin about this, but he had mentioned, if you think about React as a library framework rather than a more structured framework like Angular, then like I don't know, like, because like what Cam was saying is like when you create a component, you can easily reuse components. So the picture that I have is I'm at a table in a library, and I can just go and I can pick books from the shelves and spread them on the table, rather than having to use up the whole table and maybe using things that I'm not quite using. So in that way, React is very lightweight. And then again, the Chrome extension Redux and the Chrome extension React, like, absolutely saved our butts, just in both understanding like errors, console errors, understanding why things are maybe breaking or not working, and just understanding just what the process, like how the process is working. So you can look at the actions being used when you go to a new page. You can see profiles are logged in. You can see JWT tokens, and it's all kind of right there. You don't have to kind of go between tabs or anything like that. And one of the really cool things about the Redux is you can click on a state tab, and it can show you what like component you're in and how it's mutating the state or changing the state, which, just trying to understand that as a whole was really, really valuable. So that for me personally was probably the hardest thing about this project, was just really grasping a hold of how does the front end just work, because it's just different in school, and this application isn't the biggest application, but it is a bigger application that I've worked on.
Yeah, I just want to say a shout out to all you guys, and appreciate the late nights and the team coding and all that, and just thank you guys. You guys are awesome. You guys put in so much hard work throughout this whole thing. So
yeah. And with that, I think that concludes our presentation of our application. Like all of us, we are extremely grateful for the people who reached out, who assisted us, who stayed up late with us,
yes,
who woke up early a lot. Sorry, Matt, you're on the different time zone than us. But for the people who stayed up late, who worked hard, who took lunch breaks when we were working, you guys really made it for us, projected our future.
Yeah.
And so that we are grateful, and hopefully we can make you proud.
Yeah, very, very well done, guys. That was definitely very impressive. So definitely take pride in what you have created there, and very well articulated, very well styled, from functionality to user interface, everything. I see pretty much nothing wrong, and even great comments in the code. So that way you can go back in a week or two, in a month, and be like, all right, what was happening here again? And hopefully the comments can get you right back into it, just to refresh the memory, name files, all that stuff in the code, all really good practices. And like you said, with learning all these new tools that are out there is a great practice to get into as well. And just like either building a house or being a chef, it's nice to know what tools are available and not have to just do just HTML, CSS, JavaScript. It's like, oh, I have all these other tools that do a little bit more specific things, or allow me to build a little more interesting or impressive thing. So have that mindset of, all right, yeah, I know what these things are, and you guys did great articulating it as well. So I imagine a few months ago it was all gibberish to you at the time, and so you're versed in how to speak to it, and that's going to be huge when talking about with interviewing and networking, and giving the peace of mind to employers that, all right, you know what you're talking about, you got the basics, great, we're going to take you to the next level, we're going to show you how our operation works and take you from there. So definitely a really huge, solid foundation you guys have for sure. And yeah, definitely thanks to Franklin and Adib for being definitely great resources. And that's what this is. It's a lot of teamwork involved in this industry, and Facebook, anything out there, Airbnb, you name it, wasn't built by one person. There's hundreds, if not thousands, of developers. So you all kind of have to you might be working on a tiny little functionality, but it all comes together at the end. So the fact that, the sign in and sign out was super frustrating, super time consuming, that's kind of the industry. It's just constantly problem solving, one after the other. So having that patience and resiliency, you'll definitely see that moving forward. So very, very cool. Yeah, like I said, very impressive. Maybe do just a couple questions here to close it out. If you had a couple more weeks, do you know what you guys might want to add on to the functionality? And we'll just kind of have one more question after that.
Yeah, I think for sure, I think it would be cool to see the kind of like a like, button maybe on the posts, and comment, so a user can go in and comment, and then obviously for the non-authenticated user to be able to maybe edit their post, delete their post, and get that taken care of. But for sure, like commenting on a post, I think that'd be a great, touch and add to it overall. So
I personally would have wanted to figure out how to add a dashboard-like feature. In the code I built out a bunch of code, and unfortunately we had to kind of cut that just for the sake of time. And it was kind of bittersweet because, I worked so hard, on this particular portion, but then we had to cut it and focus our efforts on something else. And so I personally would like to have found a solution to utilize the dashboard and maybe have more of a profile type of vibe to it. But that's just me.
Yeah, I think I agree with these guys that if we had another year, it would be one thing. Another 2 weeks, it would just be going towards a better, a more rich user experience, whether that's likes or being able to see kind of profiles of other users or things like that. Just adding a richness for the user.
Got it. Awesome. And so, yeah, lastly, kind of what advice do you have for people currently in the program, and what do your goals look like for the next 30 days?
Advice, keep going. Not that it gets easier, but it makes more sense. And don't be afraid to ask for help from anyone.
Yeah. Definitely utilize, the team that you guys have. Just to echo what Mo was saying, utilize the team that you have around you. You have amazing instructors, Adib, Frank, Will, just to name a few. They're there to help and they want to see you succeed. So reach out, when you need it. Also, just utilizing as best you can the web and, YouTube, GitHub. It'll help you out in the long run. And then also take little breaks when you're on a block. Just take a little break, go do something, clear your head, and come back. I don't know how many times I fixed my problem after hours of looking at the same code. I took 5 minutes, took 10 minutes, and then came back to it and solved the issue in just a couple minutes. So don't freak out, don't overthink. I think that's something that we tend to do a lot throughout this boot camp, is overthinking something that should be super simple. So
I would say when you're coding, actually talk yourself through the coding. That way it kind of, you understand the logic, but you're also doing it at the same time. And for me personally, actually inviting Holy Spirit into the coding process and partnering with him. I had this realization only a couple weeks ago. We're stuck on an issue and I'm thinking, I haven't prayed about this. And it sounds silly, but having I don't think the thing is about praying. I think it's that connection with Holy Spirit, with God, just recognizing that you kind of created the world. You should know maybe a little bit about code, right? So, could you help a brother out, or help a sister out? And just what Cam was saying, there's been times where I've been stuck on something, or I'm at the last hour of a final, ready to give up and just submit what I have and prepare for that low grade. And I walk out, ask God, what am I missing? And just boom, I get it. And that happened to me with the Angular project. And I did a little code, and within 15 minutes I had the project done and submitted, and I got an A or B on that. So I would say, just remember you're not alone in this. Remember you have your mentors. This is also a school of where we're partnering with God. And so remember to bring him in at the same time.
Yep. It's good.
Yeah, I think what I would say has pretty much been mentioned, but exactly what Matt was just saying. We got to hear pretty early on Chris Fallison talk about SQ before he even talked about it at the prophetic conference, and just that idea of partnering with Holy Spirit in so many ways, but even in coding. And then what everyone else said, don't be afraid to ask questions. I think the people that are doing well are those who aren't afraid to ask questions in Slack. I mean, it takes humility to do it. I think in our culture, we tend to want to go it alone, or we don't want to ask. And then even building community amongst your cohort, or amongst those that the four of us working together are the ones who mostly kind of talk to each other throughout the whole school. Yeah. I mean, we gotten a lot closer these last 6 weeks doing this project, but we already knew each other. So it just really, I think, sped some things along in relationship and being able to work together.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And the Slack channel is good. A lot of alumni are still actively involved there. So even if it's not a mentor or an instructor, there's still recent graduates or somebody that just finished that class. Right. That'll help them learn more too. So the Slack channel is huge. And somebody mentioned the rubber duck method as well, just speaking it out loud, kind of to yourself, pretending you have a rubber duck on your desk.
I didn't know that's what that was called.
Yeah.
I sometimes do that to my wife. It's like, wife, come here. I know you don't understand, but
just pretend just have your ears open for a second. You don't have to say anything. Yeah. So yeah, a lot of tips and tricks. So very cool. I'll open it up to the Bethel Tech team if they have any final words, and then kind of leave you guys with a little bit of kind of some quotes and inspiration, and then that'll be a wrap.
Hi, good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Hey, I just started 2 days ago, but what an honor it is to be a part of this. I just Holy Spirit's so involved, and I just such an awesome demonstration that you guys just did. Appreciate it so much. I came in a little bit late, but I saw it pop up, and first I had to have my coffee. But I'm excited to work with the team and dig in and just make it happen.
Awesome.
Well done, well done, and well done.
I just wanted to quickly say that I am very proud of you guys. Having spent some nights with you debugging and just seeing things click through this whole process has been, I think you guys are the first true, I guess, team that I've worked with at Bethel School of Tech kind of through a final project. And that was just such an incredible experience for me, and getting to try to articulate things and then seeing you guys find answers and then apply that right into the code. It was just excellent. I'm really proud of you guys, all of you. And I just want to say that was an awesome presentation. And I know that this is truly just the beginning of the work that you guys are going to put out. That's going to make a difference. So I'm really excited, and great presentation, you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.